Welcome back to Simplifying the State, the podcast where we break down politics so you don't have to try to figure out why the president is saying Tylenol gives you autism. As always, I'm Adam Watson.
I'm Nicholas Perrin.
And I'm Drew Garfinkel.
All right, now before we start, if you would be so kind as to rate the podcast, follow it wherever you're listening to it, as well as share it with anyone you think would enjoy it, such as friends, family, or a random person you see at Costco. Okay, so as everyone may or may not be aware, we may be heading towards a government shutdown in about 3 days. So basically, the government is going to run out of money on October 1st. That's when the fiscal year ends. And I heard some people talking about like it was the debt ceiling. And the difference between this and the debt ceiling is that here, the budget, we have the money, we just haven't appropriated it. So Congress has to make appropriations bills and all that stuff for the next fiscal year, whereas the debt ceiling, we cannot borrow any more money to keep the government running. So that's kind of the difference between a government shutdown over the debt ceiling and a government shutdown over the funding. Okay, what are your guys' reaction to the debt ceiling crisis that we have right
The
now?
debt ceiling or the
Oh no,
budget?
not the
I
debt,
don't
not the
think
debt
it's
ceiling.
yeah.
No, not the debt ceiling. The government
Yeah, we
shutdown.
have the money. We just need to allow it, right? That's
Yeah.
what's going on.
Not the
Mhm.
debt ceiling. What are your guys' thoughts on the impending government shutdown?
I mean, like, it's not surprising if it happens, especially in like this political environment. I mean, it's happened like since 1980 a bunch of times, and I don't think it's going to be too surprising that it happens again. If it does happen, there'll be a lot of consequences, hypothetically. And it might not be as bad as some people would think, though. Drew, what do you think?
I don't think it's gonna happen. I think it's a game of chicken, and someone's gonna give in the next time Congress meets. So I
Right,
feel
yeah.
like something's gonna happen
Yeah.
because they
Uh,
have one day to pass something
mm,
before this happens.
yeah, so for those who don't know, the House, basically they passed a CR, a continuing resolution, which would fund the government through, I think, March is when they said. Um, so a continuing resolution, they passed it through the House. One Democrat voted for it, two Republicans voted against it. And then it's yet to go to the Senate. The Senate says, well, the Senate Democrats said they'll reject it because of the filibuster. They need 60 senators to get it to pass through. The Republicans, so they need some Democrats to join them. Democrats said they probably will not do this. Like, there have not been enough Democrats saying that they would vote for this continuing resolution um, as it is to get it to pass the Senate. Speaker Johnson, who is a close ally of President Trump, then essentially called a recess. Basically, they're not going to create any new legislation or anything like that, or not amend the continuing resolution. So they said basically the ball is in the Democrats' court now, is basically what they said. The Democrats said they would vote for the continuing resolution if it reinstated the tax credit for the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare. Basically, how that works is it lowers people's premiums if they are below 100% of the poverty line. So it lowers their premiums, and that's basically how those tax credits work. And the Democrats want those to remain because the big, beautiful bill cut those, and they're set to expire at the end of the year. So the Democrats want those to not expire. So, what do you guys think about? Do you think the Democrats should pass this clean continuing resolution to fund the government through March while they figure out the whole appropriations process?
So I think that's a difficult question to answer. I think a better question would be to ask, how have the Democrats like strategized amongst themselves thus far? And to answer that question, there's been a lot of debate amongst Democrats and political like philosophers. Like there's this one guy that said, I think like Ezra Keel was his name. He said that the Democrats should like not pass the continuing resolution and let the shutdown go through as like an act of resistance if they don't get what they want, and also to shed some light onto how allowing a government shutdown to take place isn't always a bad thing. And he said that that would like expose the people not voting for the shutdown, for their not unwillingness to compromise, basically. And then other Democrats, I think Chuck Schumer was one of them who did want to pass the continuing resolution, thought that it would be better if the government just keeps running, and it would look better for the Democrats if they just kept the government running because they don't want to disrupt a bunch of federal workers' lives. And
Right.
also, yeah, they thought it would politically look better for them if they went along with it and fought in different areas.
Yeah, I think that they should pass it because a bunch of people have already been laid off. I want to say 300,000 federal workers or something like that as of NBC, I believe. If this isn't passed, then government workers who are essential, they'll continue to do their job. They won't get paid though. So that would disrupt a bunch of people's lives.
Right. Although here's what I think, and I agree this is a difficult thing because if the government shuts down, there are benefits uh, that are usually paid out to people that are not paid out. Federal workers will work without pay, stuff like that. But I'm not sure if you guys have seen this, but the Office of Budget Management, I think it's called, yeah, Office of Budget Management, headed by Russell Vogt, who's a devout Christian nationalist who wrote
Of
Project
course.
2025. He has sort of been laying plans out for that all government workers who are furloughed in the event of a shutdown, they will be fired completely and will not be allowed to return if the government goes back into uh, if they reopen and stuff. So I feel like this is tricky because on one hand, it would be very bad if all those people lost their jobs. It not only for those people and for their families, but also it would result in our uh, government possibly becoming less efficient than it already is. Because if you have fewer people to do jobs in the government, then less stuff is going to get done. But at the same time, I've heard some people arguing that, I mean, the Republicans, specifically the Trump administration, has already been firing workers. It's just been a slow process. And so, I mean, why not just speed this up? Otherwise, they're going to have to cave.
Well, it is true that the Trump administration will continue firing federal employees, and this just gives them a more, I guess, political excuse to do so. But and it's also it is good to mention though, the shrinking of the U.S. economy that will be suffered during the shutdown. I think in the last shutdown during Trump's first term, the U.S. GDP growth shrank by 0.1 to 2%, 0.1 to 0.2%, and cost the government about $7 billion, which was actually more than would have been needed to just carry out governmental operations for that time.
Right,
But again, I don't think it would be good to say whether the government should or not be shut down.
right.
Drew, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's a difficult topic that I don't know too much about, so I don't want to claim anything, but I agree with you.
In terms purely looking at this from a political perspective, ignoring all other important factors in the decision, I think Democrats could make this work for them, and I'm going to explain how. And again, this is completely ignoring all the other uh, parts of this very complex issue. So, assuming the Democrats let the clock run out and the government shuts down, they can make the case to voters that we wanted to fund the government and all that stuff. We just wanted Republicans to allow uh, lower income people to continue to have health care because I think I saw the amount of people who would be kicked off healthcare if these Obama credit tax uh, things were to expire. It was like 4.2 million people kicked off of healthcare. And
Oh,
as a
jeez.
result, it sort of is a cascading effect. As a result, everyone else will see their health insurance premiums increase because it's a whole economic thing where you put more sick people into it's like a whole thing. I'm not 100% sure I understood it, but yeah. So we wanted to fund the government and make sure these people who have less money could continue to have their health care and that everyone else could not have their premiums increased. But the Republicans didn't want to do that. So as a result, they allowed the government to be shut down. And then they fired a bunch of people at a time of economic at a time when the economy is slowing down. I mean, inflation is rising. Uh, the last couple of job reports have not been good. Um, all that stuff. And that is, I see that is the way the Democrats could possibly politically win the shutdown, although that's the only real way to win a shutdown, usually politically, because the economy usually suffers, the people usually suffer. But what do you guys think?
Well, it's yeah, it's complicated because the Democratic Party is already split on whether to go through with the shutdown in the first place. And
Right.
I imagine that if the shutdown happens, there will still be a few Democrats that argue against it, and that could even cause like a small split in the party. It might be like mended during the shutdown, or this might not even exist at all. But I think it would take a lot of coming together from the Democrats in order to quote unquote win the government shutdown politically, which I'm not too confident about, to be honest.
So you talk about the Democrats winning. Is it like right now, how it's standing, the Republicans are winning? Or are you just saying that the Democrats could win?
I see that as the most likely way the Democrats could win. The way the Republicans could win is just basically by saying we wanted to pass a clean continuing resolution. Democrats didn't want to. As a result, the government shut down. That's the way they could win it. I see the Democrats winning it politically as the more likely case if the government shut down, if they can effectively communicate their argument and that argument to the American people. But I mean, let's be quite honest here. I don't know the last time the Democratic Party as a whole was able to effectively communicate anything. So,
Or come together to do so.
correct. Yeah.
Mm.
So, it, it will really depend. But I mean, here's the thing about a government shutdown, and this is sort of a basic explainer for anyone who doesn't know how it works. So basically, um, a budget is created at the beginning of a fiscal year. The budget then runs out at the end of the fiscal year. If a new budget has not been created, the government shuts down or a continuing resolution is not passed to keep the government open. Basically, a continuing resolution is we're going to continue to fund the government at these levels until we make a new budget uh, and all that stuff, which should have technically happened by now, but Congress is pretty bad at making appropriations packages now. So, but basically, a government shutdown means that all non-essential workers or workers that have been deemed non-essential will be either furloughed or fired. In this case, it seems like they will be fired. Um, and then the essential workers will continue to work, but they will not receive pay. Um, that basically means like TSA security agents, they will work without pay. High ranking officials at the state and defense departments will work without pay. I'm assuming a couple people at the Department of Transportation will work without pay, but the FDA, I think, stops doing regular inspections on food and stuff like that, on facilities and all that stuff. Um, basically, the government essentially it's like low battery mode for your phone, kind of. I'm not sure if it's a good analogy, but that's the only one I can think of right now. It basically runs on only essential things to keep itself running and the whole country from collapsing in on itself. It's the best way I can think of it.
But don't worry, your mail will be protected because the USPS is actually technically an independent agency
Yeah, they're an
that funds
independent
itself.
agency. Yeah. But that's like a whole thing we can get about like the USPS and Amtrak are independent agencies, but they receive grants and stuff from Congress, but they're subject to congressional whims and all that stuff. And it's a whole thing. Which this is, like I said, unrelated, but do you know the USPS lost like $8 billion last year?
Really? Just no one
I
uses it
didn't know
anymore?
that.
Yeah, it's just like no one, I'm not sure if it's no one uses it, but they just lost $8 billion, which is kind of crazy.
I
But
mean, given
anyway,
the state
back
of
to
the
the
US economy, that's not too bad.
yeah. But anyway,
Yeah.
back to the government shutdown and not the United States Postal Service. Um, but yeah, that's basically how a government shutdown works. All non-essential functions are removed. Everything is basically stripped down to its bare level that it needs to keep functioning.
So let's say this does happen. How would you, like you personally, how would you be affected?
Well, me personally, I think all of us in Clayton are fairly insulated from stuff like that. Uh, I mean, like I talked about the food inspections, that can be a big thing that could impact us. Salmonella cases could go unreported, which could contaminate food supplies and all that stuff, causing people to get sick. Um, that's the only thing I can think of. Um, yeah, that's the only thing I can think of at this moment.
Okay, I'll broaden it then, because yeah, we're pretty insulated right now. I do agree
Yeah.
with that. But your average American, your
Okay.
average Joe, how
Yeah.
would they be
Your
affected?
average American is going to be impacted more because the food stuff still goes. Um, But then also, uh, payments, like if you're on disability or on welfare, you're on stuff like that, that I think is paused. Um, Social Security, you'll still technically get the money, but there will be so few people who are actually able to send out the checks that it might delay when you get that. That goes for the disability as well and welfare. Um, Same for if you're on Obamacare, it will be harder to speak to a representative if there's an issue with that. Yeah, if you're in line at an airport, there may be fewer TSA workers. That's about it. That's all I can think of.
All right.
Yeah, so by and large, it would not be good for the average American if there was a government shutdown.
Your life probably wouldn't be affected too much, like,
Yeah,
so long as the shutdown doesn't last, like, a couple weeks or a month.
yeah.
But yeah, it definitely could impact you quite a bit.
Yeah, if the government shuts down for like 3 days, that's not really going to impact you that much. But if it goes for a week, 2 weeks, three, a month, then you'll start to notice it in your everyday life. All right. Anyone else have anything else to add?
I don't think so.
All right.
Nope.
Thank you for listening to Simplifying the State. As we said at the start, if you enjoyed, please make sure to rate and follow. Check us out on Instagram at Simplifying the State. We post stuff there whenever we upload new episodes. And we'll talk to you guys next time.